All right, I think we will have a few people join as we get underway. But I may as well kick us going since especially we have some folks joining from Asia time zones and it is very late. So with that, welcome everybody to the May 15th, 2025 edition of the Technical Advisory Council of the Confidential Computing Consortium. We are an open and collaborative community. Everybody is willing to contribute to the discussion today, just as everybody is welcome to contribute to any of our open source processes or open source projects, rather. We abide by the antitrust policy of the Linux Foundation, and you can read more about that on linuxfoundation.org/antitrust-policy. Today, we'll do our normal recap of what happened in the last meeting and a few quick announcements, and then we will get into a number of meaty topics that we have for today. So we've got the annual update from the SPDM Tools project, which was originally called SPDM RS. Keep that updated. And then we have Octave joining from Korea to talk about the mentorship experience for ILET. And then we have Derek joining to talk about moving Veracruz into the emeritus status. And then looking for feedback from everybody in the community to wind up the GRC patterns documents so we can ship those over to LF Creative and Outreach and get those up on the website. And I think we also extended an invitation to anybody to give a recap from their experience at the RSA conference. It happened at the beginning of May. I didn't see anybody volunteering for that, so we'll see as we come around to the end of the agenda today whether we do that or we skip for that. Have I missed any agenda topics that people were hoping to discuss today? Bring this up real quick. All right. I think we may have some voting to do today, so let's see if we've got quorum. Nathaniel, thanks for joining today. Do we have Paul? Scroll my screen here to see everybody's names. I do not see Paul.
So Dan, he apologized that he will not be able to make it today. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. He mentioned that on Slack. Thank you for reminding me. Catherine, thanks for joining. I don't think we have Howard today. I am on. Henry or Kevin? Nope. Alec? Did anybody see a note from Alec? We normally have Alec join.
Nope, I haven't seen anything.
Okay. Likewise for Fritz, maybe we'll catch either of them as we get underway a little bit more. And I saw a note from Yash this morning, so I anticipate that if he's not on now, he will be. There we see. I see Yash, sorry. Yeah. And then Mingshen or Dale. And no Bob. So I think we are kind of right on the cusp of quorum.
I can go through it 3 times if we need.
I appreciate your generosity. All right. Well, it'll be a little bit before we get to a vote, so I think we have a good chance of having a couple of our colleagues join yet before then. Part of being an open and welcoming community is making sure everybody feels comfortable speaking with one another here. So if you haven't been to one of our meetings before, feel free to pop off of mute right now and introduce yourself to us. Let us know how you like to be addressed and what your interest in confidential computing is and where you're joining from. I see Alec has joined.
Good morning,
See
Dan.
J-
Is my audio working?
It is. It is.
Okay, cool.
Hi, this is Abby Halder with Mainsail Industries. I am new to the community and have not introduced myself at least twice on this meeting. So, um, again, my name is Abby Halder. I'm she, her. I'm joining from Northern Colorado, Fort Collins. And our company's confidential competing interest is we have a secure virtualization platform that's using a unique way of confidential computing. So we're very interested in helping be part of this, shape requirements and be part of this community.
Well, that's fantastic. Thanks for joining, Abby.
Thank you.
We've got a number of Intel colleagues in Fort Collins, so yet to visit there in person myself, but I hear it's lovely.
It is. It's a lovely community up here. So
I too can attest to that. I'm in the Loveland area, so I'm just 5 miles south of you, Abby.
wonderful,
My name,
John.
my name is John Zuckerberg. I am coming at this in the context of Web3 technologies. I've been very influential in distributed storage networks, and we're taking on some compute challenges. And we want to learn and leverage the lessons that the confidential computing groups, special interest groups are doing here, possibly bring some ideas in that we've been working against the same problems, and the overlap is profound. And one of the things that I see as I'm in some of the other sub meetings here is there's still the issue of centralized authorities that are were attestation or there's still a lot of centralized principles in this, and we're trying to figure out how to use the same technology, but on a trustless, permissionless network, such as we're used to with blockchains. Anyway, John Zuckerberg, Loveland, and Abby, we'll have to have a chat offline, I guess.
Yeah, I would
Maybe
love
a
to meet up
coffee.
with you. I'll reach out.
Great. Well, thanks for joining, John. There's definitely a lot of Web3 interest throughout the CCC community. It's been suggested a couple times that maybe there's enough interest in that to form its own special interest group. But as you observed, since there's so much overlap, I think it's great to have kind of everybody in the functional groups that we've got now. All right, well, I think I recognize everybody else on the list, but if you've missed the chance to introduce yourself and you want to do that later, feel free to pop off of mute and do that at that time. So we skipped last meeting because it was the RSA conference and May Day, Labor Day, so there were lots of reasons not to show up. But the meeting, the last meeting properly then was April 17th, and we talked about getting people to the RSA conference. So I hope we were able to make good use of the booth slots that the CCC paid for that. And then we asked for topics for the board meeting that was coming up the following week. And then we had the update, the annual update from Gramming. So we'll have similarly the annual update from the SPDM Tools project shortly. We only briefly discussed the security baselines that Emily from the board, Emily Fox from the board and from the OpenSSF talked about. So we still need to figure out whether and how we adopt those for the CCC. So that'll be coming in some future discussion, but if you'd like to help shape that, you can reach out to Yash between now and whenever we get that on the agenda. And then we did a little bit of work on the GRC patterns documents, and that's what we're going to hope to spend more time on today and get those over the wire. A few quick announcements. The Trustworthy Workload Identity Special Interest Group, we've created 2 repos now. And what we're trying to do with the repository maintenance is keep those underneath the CCC governance organization. And that just logistically makes things easier as people come and go, that we can make sure that those repositories continue to be maintained. And so we're going to be asking the attestation SIG, if we haven't already, to move their repos underneath the same organization. And I don't know if we've gotten any feedback on that, Rian.
No, that's on my to-do. It's probably going to be a Friday thing to chase everybody up.
Okay, certainly not an urgent thing, but just part of keeping the organization clean. Fritz, thanks for creating the Tech Talk guidelines. So these can be referenced now on our governance repo. So we always try to make sure that we allocate time for technical topics. And there'd been like a lot of repetitive things that we always had to communicate to people about what we're looking for. So those are now up on the governance repo. So this is the pull request there if you want to go right to the text for it. Otherwise, the Tech Talk guidelines are there currently, the last file in our governance repo.
Yeah, thanks for merging them. Sorry, I'm a little bit on the go right now, but yeah, feel free to also help me and let's improve this over time when we see something is wrong or can be misunderstood. So hopefully we can use this as a better guideline from going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a convenient thing to point to when we're trying to recruit talks from our academic contacts or researchers within our own companies or other maybe startups. So it's a good thing to be able to point people to. So I appreciate having those created. And so back in, I think it was 2021, maybe 2022, we talked about having a security disclosure process. So that's common in usually open source communities where everybody is on the same project. In communities like ours where there's a diversity of projects that don't necessarily have direct software dependency with each other, it's a little bit less common. And so we didn't pursue it very significantly. But I got a question about this offline from somebody who maybe would like that ability to communicate across CCC maintainers. Where we left off with this was we created this security all mail list, but we didn't actually get maintainers attached to it. If there's somebody in the community who has a passion for responsible disclosure and the kind of processes around managing security related GitHub issues, that sort of thing. If somebody wants to pick that up and try to get all the maintainers to get onto that list, there's probably some near-term use for it. Otherwise, we'll try to handle that as a one-off process. Okay, so that gets us through announcements, and we are gonna go ahead and get into the SPDM tools update. And I will hand things over to my colleague, Duan. I'm gonna stop sharing, assuming that you wanna be able to bring some slides up.
Yes, thank you, Dan. Let me share my screen. Can you see it?
I can.
Okay, great. So this is annual review update for SPDM tool project. The content include the introduction, some update, planning, and the annual review result. So first, introduction, we have a project named SPDM RS. It's a pure Rust version SPDM library. We put it under CCC SPDM tool. And this library follows DMTF SPDM 1.2 specification. And we also add some PCIe ID KM key management and a TDISP feature, which following the PCI-SIG PCIe specification. So the main usage of this SPDM library with PCIe IDE KM and TDISP is to support TIO use case. And the library support SPDM requester and SPDM responder. So basically, you can build the SPDM software stack with this library. This is a recap for the SPDM stack usage for the TSM side. This figure is from Intel TIO Intel TDX Connect architecture specification. The left-hand side of the figure shows the host side. So host has a TDX module as well as the SPDM requester. And the right-hand side is a TIO capable device. So it has a DSM called the Device Security Manager. So the host side TDX module and establish a SPDM secure session with the device side security module. The SPDM protocol is used to exchange the device certificate and allow the host to collect the measurement and create a secure SPDM session to transport the IDKM protocol and TDISP protocol.
Can I interject something, Jiwan?
Sure.
Yeah, just for people that don't work as closely with this, the high level idea is with a normal CPU-based confidential computing environment, we want to be able to expand out to accelerator devices. So the real common example is you want to be able to accelerate AI and make use of the GPU. You need some way to set up a secure connection between the device and your secure virtual machine. And so there's this collection of standards, SPDM, IDE, and TDISP, that help you build up that secure connection. And this is a great example of a software project where no individual company is going to have something unique here, because these are standardized protocols. And so by creating an open source project where we're all working on these same protocols, everybody gets to benefit in the community. And so it's a little bit of background on what might sound like a lot of acronyms for people who haven't gotten exposed to this kind of part of the stack
Dan?
yet with accelerators.
Hey, Dan,
Dan is, go ahead.
I'm just going to ask Dan to please expand on his explanation, which was awesome, was a super high level view of how attestation evidence is exchanged so that the CPU, which is our root of trust, can decide whether or not it trusts other devices. And I think that will complete the conversation.
Sorry, were you asking me to add on that, or that
Yeah.
was?
No, to please kind of just high level, just so you've got the CPU, that's our root of trust. That's you guys over there in Intel in this case, because we're talking about TDX. Now you've got this GPU that's from another company, and we want to trust this thing so it can be part of our confidential trusted execution environment. Just kind of walk us through that workflow really quick.
I see some sequence diagrams on the next couple of slides, and I wonder if that might be
Yeah. So yeah, this is a TI. I'll show you how they establish a session or exchange something. Maybe can share that information very quick. So the main purpose is to establish a secure session between the host TSM and the device DSM, and let the host collect the device information and allow the TVM to verify the device and pull the device into the TCP. This is a high-level flow on how that happens. So first, the TSM need to initiate the SPDM session with the device. So it sent the SPDM command via VMM, and the VMM will send the final SPDM command to the device DOE mailbox, but eventually the device will receive that, and the device will return the SPDM response. So all the SPDM messages is visible to the untrusted VMM. But the VMM request, but eventually, SPDM is a key exchange protocol. They can establish a secure session between the host TSM and the device DSM. You can see there's a green key here and a green key here. So all the rest message is, if the light is light green, means the message is encrypted by the SPDM session key. So VMM here just relay the message between the TSM and the DSM, but VMM cannot modify that and cannot see any content inside of the SPDM. The next step is that the VMM will request the TSM to establish a TLP IDE key. So this IDE key is used to encrypt the PCIe TLP for acceleration. Then the VMM send the request, then the TSM will generate the IDE key and pass the IDE key in the SPDM session. Then to make sure both the TSM side and the device DSM side has the same IDE key. So the IDE key will program to the PCIe endpoint, and the TSM side, it will program the IDE key for the SoC. Now both the SoC and the device will have the same IDE key, and that will be used to encrypt the PCIe TLP. And the third step is to establish the TDISP. TDISP is allow the device to report some device interface information. So here you can see the VMM will send a TDISP request, and TSM will encrypt that message and send to the device, and device return some message here. After those steps, the three protocols are used. They build the main function here. So the next steps, the VMM will get all those information. For example, the SPDM device certificate, device measurement, and the TDISP report. And the VMM will send this information to the TVM. Then the TVM will validate the VMM reported information to the TM can choose to say, I can trust this device because I know the device certificate, I know the device measurement. Or the TM may say, I don't know what the device it is, I choose not to trust it. So either should be fine. But just in case the TVM trusts the device, then the TVM will pull this the device into its TCP. It will tell the TSM and to check some information hash and approve that device in its TCP. Then the TVM will send the TDISP request to the TSM, say I can use please use TDISP to start the interface. Start the interface means now the device can use IDE TLP to encrypt the PCI TLP. It is used to transfer the information between device and the SoC. So all the DMA access or the MMI access can be encrypted here. And this is another use case to demonstrate the IDE key refresh, because the IDE key is an AEAD key. It is used to encrypt the IDE TLP. It might run into some case that you want to refresh the IDE key, and this IDE key refresh step is also in SPDM session. For example, the VMM saying it's time to update the IDE key. The VMM can send the IDE key refresh command to the TSM, and TSM will send the IDE KM again to the DSM, refresh the key, and also refresh the IDE key in the SoC side. Now the IDE TLP can use a new key. So those are the typical usage for the SPDM, and together with IDE key management protocol and the TDISP protocol.
Well, that was very involved. Thanks for walking everybody through that.
Update since adoption. So when we put the code there, it already include SPDM 1.2. So recently we are upgrading to SPDM 1.3 with those commands. So the things that here is some special SPDM command. Then we are adding the FIPS self-test like hash AED, including ASGCM, RSA, ECDSA, etc. Also include some bug fix. For the plan, we always plan to the SPDM version upgrade. So we just upgrade some 1.3 command. We're considering adding the new SPDM 1.3 feature, such as event. Also, we're thinking to add the chunking, SPDM chunking capability. And we also prepare for SPDM 1.4, which include the post-quantum crypto support, which will be released soon, I suspect. And also we are adding the REST FIPS crypto self-test and also add the SPDM key exchange self-test. So SPDM key exchange is not the key exchange mechanism defined in SPDM spec. We have DMTF has planned to submit this for the FIPS. And we are also thinking we have a more security test. Would like to see if there any opportunity to have a third-party penetration test. That may require will require some budget. Adoption. So first, it is adopted in TDX Connect TSM, and I talked with Samuel. They think the reverse Celeste TSM also has planned to adopt this SPDM RS. Final page is annual review. Charter, we don't have change. I think it's on track because the PCIe standard just requests a 1.2, and we just thinking to support 1.4 for PQC purposes, but it's not happening yet. So we think this on track. Budget, we may request a budget for the security audit for penetration testing. So I'm not sure what the process, but that is our hope that we have some third party can help us evaluate the sanity of this project or if there's any security vulnerability, etc. And a third party independent security audit will be much helpful. License, no change, and open SSF best practice, we reach just 97%. That is all for this annual review. Any questions on that?
With SPDM 1.4, the PQC, do you know if that's going to be the recently approved algorithms like the lattice-based stuff, or is that just larger key sizes?
Yes, it's a larger key sizes. It's the latest SPDM draft. They already add all the NIST approved algorithm. It's a long list. We hope to shrink. I think we should discuss in PCI SIG to see which algorithms they would like to pick up. Usually they pick up a subset. It's crazy to implement all those all those algorithms. But I hope it is MLDSA and MLKEM aligned with CNSA 2.0.
Okay, thank you. I see Alec.
Yeah, Jay, thanks, Jaewon, thanks for this. This is super helpful and detailed information. My question is going to be very self-centered on behalf of Microsoft, and apologies for that. I'm wondering if this open source project is one that's being maintained by folks within Microsoft. I don't know if you've worked with David Hepkin or John Lang or those folks that are super close to the Intel TDX side of engineering. Do those names ring a bell, or should I establish a channel of communication?
I know John very well. We
Okay.
have email exchange regularly. but if feel free if you think he should be involved, just include him. I know him, and I think he know me very well.
Yeah, that's cool. I figured as much. It's a small world, especially a very small world when you start talking about this level of detail and brand new protocols. Question, how can I facilitate that? Well, do this. Post your email to the chat, and I'll just make sure that I'm sure John is aware of this Rust-based SPDM implementation. I just want to make sure that, you know, I can bump this up to the top of the inbox so you guys can exchange information. That's all. And by the way, this was super helpful. If I may, I think the intro that Dan gave at the beginning for an audience this size was super helpful. So thanks for that, Dan. It would be super cool, I think, for you, Jay, especially Jay, when you're addressing an audience that's as diverse as this one, just a super high level, you know, box diagram that shows here's a CPU that is the basis of our root of trust for a trusted execution environment, and for whatever reason we put all our faith in the trustworthiness of this CPU, and it's because of Dan, let's be frank. We all believe in the Intel CPUs. Now we've got this other device that claims it's trustworthy as well. Why should the CPU believe it? And this TDISP and SPD, well, the TDISP protocol is how the untrustworthy device proves its trustworthiness to the CPU. And then SPDM is the protocol that establishes a secure channel so that this now trusted device and the CPU can talk to one another without the rest of the components in a computer, like, you know, the bus and all of that other stuff that's lurking inside of a computer, can't gain access to that secured channel. So that use case, I think, is super helpful. And once again, for those of you who are interested in cloud service providers, so we cloud service providers, you know, you guys that are using trusted execution environments inside of our rented machines, you're generating all this data, and you want it to, you know, traverse the network. You want it to go across the internet. And to secure that, all this encryption and stuff has to happen, right? Well, today, all that encryption has to happen inside the T. And so these Intel CPUs and other CPUs are spending a lot of cycles just encrypting and decrypting data. That is better done on hardware accelerators that all they do is crypto operations. But we don't want to send this very private data that we're holding inside of a T out to an accelerator for encryption, because how do we know that accelerator is good? Well, the same protocol, TDISP and SPDM, are used to establish secure channels with these accelerators so that we can send the data out of your T in clear text to the accelerator, which then encrypts it before it gets on the networking stack. So that's another great use case for TDISP and SPDM, and just wanted to make everybody aware of that. And I see a whole bunch of hands. They're probably going to say that I have it all wrong, so get to it.
Thank you, Alec. That's a great compliment. I did not prepare too much information for the high level stuff. I probably add 1 or 2 pages to describe to add what you said.
Yeah, I totally get it. Where you're down in the stack, that high level stuff is like a whole bunch of floors above you, and I get it. And thank you for doing all the cool low level stuff that actually makes the use cases work.
All right, Fritz.
Yeah, thanks. Alec, you're completely wrong. No, just kidding. So thanks, Joanne, for that. Yeah, I think, you know, I also appreciate the work, right? So I think it's great. I have one more organizational question. So we do have, or we have the SPDMRS repo now, and I see you're adding the IDE KM and the TDISP to that. Now my question is, I think that makes sense in the general case, but would it maybe also make sense to split SPDM and TDISP into 2 different repos, just to allow independent use of this as some sort of library version? Because, I mean, for example, we have some devices that have SPDM only, I could envision some IoT devices that have SPDM only, and that is then for the station, not for key exchange, right?
Yes, it's possible.
I mean, I don't know how big TDIS blows up the code base, right? So this is more me asking whether it makes sense to split off TDIS into a separate repository just to allow independent library use of those two protocols.
I think so. So far, it's not entirely coupled. You can see this IDKM library, the IDKM directory, and his TDIS directory. If you don't use that, just don't use codes there. It should be fine. So I do think about that when I create the, and I feel it might be a burden to put too many repo. Yeah, but we can discuss that offline.
Are those directories separate crates?
Yes, I think so. Separate.
So I think the ideal situation here is separate crates, but one repo. That way we can allow coordination between the two of them, but use independently.
We can have an issue and discuss that in the issue. It's a more implementation. I
didn't want to go down on telling you how to run your code base. I was more trying to go in the direction of either we could consider changing the name, because from SPDM-RS, I wouldn't think that you also can do TDIS, or we need to market this a little bit different, right? Because honestly, also now until checking this again, I didn't know that you also made it to TDIS nowadays. But I think that's cool, and we should make sure people know about this. But maybe just from the SPDM-RS name, that's not too visible. That's all. That's just my 5 cents I wanted to give in there.
Yeah, to be honest, it's also include other things. For example, the PCI DOE transport. If you want to split, it's also something you want to split. But the problem is that we may split too many things to different repo. It make the integrator hard to get all those things. Also, we have a test. You test some test. So I hope we can file issue and we can discuss more detail in the issue and how we want to organize those repository. But I get your
we just
point.
rebranded, right? I mean, I think all of these are very, very, very valuable, and I think they're all great to have in one repository. So maybe we can just consider rebranding it to something like, I don't know, attestation tools or I don't know, TVM tools or stuff like this. Because I'm just trying to prevent a situation where people think it can just do SPDM, but you cannot do all the other cool stuff. That's the only thing.
I get it. That's a good point.
Okay, I see Catherine next in the queue.
Yeah, hey, great work. Very important, critical work for secure AI. I'm just curious, have you experimented with the real hardware, TDIS enabled hardware, or are you using simulators to do your testing, just out of curiosity?
Yes, I do the real testing on Intel TDX Connect capable SoC. It's real hardware. It's real hardware.
I see. So it's an Intel proprietary device that you would connect and test the protocol.
Yes, at this moment. But once other vendor have the device, it can plug in our system and we can validate that as well.
Will those devices be available for others to test, or it will remain proprietary and internal only to Intel?
So far, it's internal only. I cannot share the name, but I can just tell you I I did the test for other card.
Okay, thank you.
If anybody would like to donate SPDM capable cards for testing to the project, that would probably be welcome. Float that out there, but Nathaniel is next in the queue.
Thanks, Dan. I just wanted to say I wasn't actually aware of this project until today, so this is fantastic. Super enthusiastic about it. I had a question about, I assume that this handles all of the messages because we don't have kernel interfaces yet, or are we further along on kernel interfaces than I expected?
That is a tough question. When I say process handle all messages, I cannot say it can process all messages. I would say it can process the required message in the TEIO use case, or required message in the TEIO use case. There are some other special SPDM message. It's not used in the TEIO use case, so that it's not implemented yet. But we're welcome for other people if they want to contribute.
Great, thank you.
Okay, great. So I guess I want to be able to move on to Bokdok's topic very soon here, but some concluding thoughts. There's this open request on the pen testing, and Rian put into chat some work that is happening in OpenSSF, so we can maybe get some quotes out of that. What we have allocated per project right now is about $7,500 a year for CI kinds of infrastructure and costs. I'm guessing a security analysis goes far beyond that budget amount, but we're always looking for ways to assist the projects. And so maybe if we get an idea about what that pen testing would cost, we can figure out how we can accommodate that with the existing budget, or go to the board to ask for some additional funding.
I appreciate that.
So, and do you anticipate looking into the cost yourself, Jiwon, or were you hoping somebody else here had insight on that?
Yeah, I hope somebody can help me. I'm not so familiar with those process. If somebody can help, that would be great. Very helpful for us.
Rian?
Yes, I can help. So if you reach out to me, I can. So we're working with an organization called OSTIF. They're ostif.org. And what they do is they're the in between the projects and the service providers for the audits. So they work with open source projects, identify service providers, and negotiate the price, create a statement of work, because they understand all the different variations. They put a percentage on top of that cost. But on one of the previous audits that I had, the project got a quote for $70,000, and I think after OSTIF got the hold of it, they got the right statement of work, and I think it went down to like 45. So with their commission on top. So it's really, they know their game, and they basically put it out on tender for the right type of auditors. So yeah, work with me and I can line you up and see what the budget we're going to be.
Okay, thank you very much, Rian. So Dan, if you can shoot us a mail, I can share more information.
I will do that.
Stay involved in there.
Sorry, say that again.
I'm just saying you can also keep me involved. I can take that role also.
Oh, that's great. Yes, as Fritz is the TAC liaison for this project.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. That is all for my share.
All right, thanks again. Okay, Oktuk, thanks for staying up so late with us. We'll turn the floor over to you. You did send me a slide, so I can share that out if you like. All right.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Boktuk Jang, and I'm joining from Seoul. And I am one of the maintainers of the iLab project. Before we start, let me first introduce iLab briefly. iLab is an open source project written in Rust, aiming to enable confidential computing on ARM architecture devices using ARM CCA. There were two main reasons why we decided to join this mentorship program. Firstly, we wanted to broaden our contributor base. Currently, most of the initial contributors are Samsung employees or people from organizations we already have collaborations with. Secondly, we wanted to improve the security of the iLab project. iLab includes confidential computing firmware that manages confidential virtual machines. Considering the firmware's role, security is especially critical. As fuzz testing is known to be an effective way to find vulnerabilities, we had been thinking it would be great to apply it to iLab. When we found out about this mentorship program, it was a great opportunity to actually start this work. Also, we wanted to improve our OpenSSF badge score through this effort. Sharing our experience with the mentorship, over 100 people applied, and we interviewed about 6 finalists. It took quite a lot of time to review the applications. It's just a side note, but to share a little story, some are suspected to be AI generated, even including fake commit links. So we had to carefully check each one. Because the required skills for this task, it was quite, they were quite advanced, like fuzzing, lost language, system software experience, especially in confidential computing or virtualization, and knowledge of ARM architecture. It was hard to find someone with all of those. In the end, we interviewed candidates who had at least some Linux kernel or unit testing experience. Fortunately, around the application deadline, we met a candidate who matched all the criteria. During the 12 weeks of the mentorship, the mentee and I had online meetings every 2 weeks and also shared updates by email. Luckily, the mentee was very skilled. He was able to follow the task descriptions without much additional explanation. So what's the result? You know, iLab is already written in Rust, which guarantees memory safety. We also use tools like Miri to check if unsafe code follows safety rules. And we also use a model checker, Kenny, for formal verification. So we hoped there would be no bugs. However, the mentee worked so hard to find any possible issues. He implemented a lot of fuzz test harnesses and was able to cover most of the interfaces provided by the CC firmware. As for the results, he found 3 bugs. 2 were integer overflows in safe code, and 1 was a semantic violation that did not follow the ABI specification. We looked back and realized these bugs couldn't have been found by Miri because Miri doesn't catch this type of issues, and the fuzz and the test harnesses we implemented with Kenny wasn't testing those specific ABIs. The mentorship really helped us to fill in some gaps and gave us some good sense of direction for what we need to do next. So I want to thank CCC for giving us the opportunity to participate in this mentorship program. And special thanks to Sal, Rian, Yash, and everyone else who supported us during this process. I also deeply appreciate the mentee for his great work and high-level skills. I really hope other projects will also join this program and benefit from it like we did. We'd love to do this again, but this time we'll let others take the chance. Thank you.
That was a great update. I'm really glad that it was a productive mentorship and you got bugs found out through this, so that's great. Also surprising to me, maybe shouldn't be surprising, but interesting to hear that there might have been a lot of AI generated applications with fake GitHub links. So that's something that I hadn't had to consider before.
Yeah, that was new to me.
Any questions for Baktuk about the process? Okay, well, I think that was a very clear update, and I'm glad that that was productive, and I'm glad that we continue to be able to offer this both for the projects and then also for the prospective mentees out there that want to get involved with confidential computing. So really appreciate Yash and Rian and everybody else who helped contribute to this. Okay, let's go ahead and move then into our next topic, which is Veracruz moving into the final stage of project progression. Appreciate Derek being on the call here. And so everybody should have seen out on the mail list about a month ago. We had some discussion about this, a little bit of discussion, I think, in the meetings verbally. One of the main sort of governance things that we want to do as a TAC is just make sure that when it is time for a project to sunset, that we make sure that the community of users of that project, potential new maintainers, gets notifications so that if somebody does want to step up and continue to maintain the project, that we've done due diligence on that. And so Derek has made some updates to the README over a month ago now, I think, in order to make that visible. And I will turn things over to Derek here to say more about where the process is and his feelings on it.
Yeah, so I updated the README 2 years ago. Not 2 years, 2 months ago is what the last real code update was last year. So we've wound down our involvement on it, and I'm not aware of anyone who is interested in picking it up. So I mean, there's not a whole lot to say at this point. I think we're from our side, we're ready to go.
Okay, great. And then get back to the. So if you go to the project progression policy in our governance documents, we do have a little bit outlined for the emeritus stage for anybody who hasn't looked at that yet. And then you can see in the README the notification that Derek made available. I've checked through this. I looked through pull requests and issues. I don't see anybody else putting their hand up. So I think from a due diligence perspective, we've done all that, and we can let Veracruz kind of move into the sunset so to speak. Does anybody have anything else to impart on maintainer status there? Or anything else that we should know before we finalize the emeritus status? So I know we had Fritz leave, but I think we still have quorum. So I think the way we'll do this is I will just ask for if there is anybody who wishes to object to this, you can speak now. Otherwise, we will consider it a motion passed to move Veracruz into emeritus. Going once, going twice. All right. Well, congratulations to Veracruz on kind of reaching that final status. So Chris has put in a chat a good follow-on question. Is there a presentation on lessons learned, etc.? And a different way I could frame that question is, would it be possible to get like a blog post or something that kind of summarizes thoughts on what was learned, what are sort of the new interests for the maintainers who had been supporting Veracruz, kind of help lead thought in the community onto the next stage?
Yeah, I can write something up on that.
That'd be great. And as this is our first project to make it all the way from start to end, we don't really have a checklist for the emeritus stage, but I feel like maybe I'd put something into an issue.
Yeah, I would like some approved wording on the final state of the README. Right now it says is transitioning to emeritus stage, and we probably need to change that.
Yeah, and so I'm happy to help you generate some wording, but it should basically just be this project has been archived, is no longer maintained, it is in emeritus status.
Okay, but then I'll just write it up myself, then I can do that.
Okay, that'd be great. And then, so for those other checklist items, Rian will need to update the website. And I feel like we had some discussion where we generated kind of this to-do list somewhere, but I couldn't find it before the meeting.
One other thing that might need to be updated is the project website.
The Veracruz project website, or the list of projects on the CCC website?
Veracruz project website. Maintained by, it was set up and maintained by CCC.
Oh, okay. I was unaware of that.
It's veracruz-project.com. I'll put it in here.
Okay, well, that's a nice website. So yeah, I guess we'll need to, probably just most efficient thing is just to turn that website off.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Just don't want to leave it out there for, don't want to leave it in its current state.
Right. Yeah, thanks for the heads up on that.
Sure.
So maybe the most, I don't know if the best way to manage the loose ends is to create a single issue on the governance repo, and we can just create a checklist. If anybody else has a suggestion. Okay, well, let's take it from there. Anything else before we wrap up this agenda item? Okay, well, I just want to thank Derek again, and along with the other maintainers on Veracruz. Yeah, it's a good sign of maturity within the community that we've got a project that's gone all the way across the progression. right,
Okay,
thanks.
thank you.
Okay, next topic, and we're doing well on time, is we want to get these patterns docs into a state where they can be published. And I see we still have Mark for a little bit. I know Mark didn't anticipate being able to be around.
Yeah, I was able to enable attendance.
Great. All right, so everybody has had a long time to go take a look at these and get their feedback in. I appreciate Fritz and Catherine getting their reviews in earlier, and I don't know if Simon is on, but Simon also provided some good substantive feedback. Let's see if
I
we can
also
close.
want to stress that I intend for these to be forever live documents. So some things can be left as issues and fixed up. But the current, like GitHub is not the easiest format in which to review things. So I'm just afraid like a large pull request is actually delaying things. I feel we could do like very targeted changes after we approve this, if you know, if the general shape is okay. Now, of course, if there are major issues, we should hold off.
Right, yeah, and there's a little bit of catch-22 that I think we don't get concerted feedback from people until we say it's final. But then you really only want to use these detailed diffs for a
And in
final.
fact, there are two significant additions I would make to certainly payload governance after after these are approved that I've been holding off on. So one would be around extensibility, governing extensible payloads like confidential VMs, right? And there is another one around the governing of sealing to the platform, which is, again, they're orthogonal to everything that was written, but I didn't want to complicate this process. So again, these are living documents. We will be evolving them as things change.
Okay, well, why don't we hit this one first, especially since Ophir is on.
Do you want me to explain my comment?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so the mentioning here is for the, I assume the software measurements of the workload should be a part of the policy, which makes sense. I also suggest including the hardware firmware version that sometimes there is, a vulnerability is identified in the TE hardware, and there is a new firmware that fixes that. So you want to make sure that you're not using a TE that is not patched for that version, that the firmware is not
Okay,
patched.
I can speak to that. So you really, when you attest a payload running on a piece of hardware, you're really attesting two things. There is the payload, right? So I could take like a payroll application that I've developed and go deploy it on several machines, and that's the same reference values for the payroll application. But because they're three separate machines, they may have be in different states of upgrade, and they may have different firmwares. And this is around the former, not the latter. We have another pattern in the works that would be around governing devices, right? But so that would fall under device governance.
Okay, fair enough. At the end of the day, it will be the same verifier that ensures
yes,
both
it would be the same
software and hardware.
verifier, but
Yeah.
these are two different governance mechanisms.
Okay, fair enough.
So in fact, organizationally, that would be handled by different people. So for instance, you can have a like data center management team. They're responsible for managing the hardware in the data center. And they will be the ones deploying reference values to the verifier around what hardware is acceptable. And then there are separate development teams. Payroll application has one, and your HR has another, and loan origination teams have another, and they govern their own payloads.
Okay, fair enough. Although just to note on that, it could be a mutual decision with the business owner based on the criticality of their information so that for one payload you can say I'm okay with the fact that the firmware is not in the latest version.
Yes.
But for another one, you'll say no. For that one, it is a
Right.
must to be on the latest.
So normally what would happen is you have credential issuance policies and the verifier. And what you would have is you would basically say, this credential is, is good to use with highly confidential data, for instance, right? And the inputs into that decision might come from more than one source, right? So it's a great observation, but again, the scope of this document is governing the payload itself, not the environment, not how you govern the verifier, right? It's just that.
Yeah, that's okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay. And then do we still have Catherine? We still have Catherine. Great. Do you feel like this is resolved, Catherine, or did you want some additional text here?
I think given that this is a living doc, I think I'm fine with what we have here. I think we could add additional things that we deem essential. But yeah, it's kind of hard to have a complete comprehensive list, I think.
So let me put some context around this. This is about effectively the duty of care, right? So we are not saying that here's a set of guidelines to make the world a perfect place. These are the things that you can reasonably anticipate being problems in governing the security of your payload. So for instance, we mentioned you have to use the proper random number generator. You cannot rely on your hosting environment for random number generation, right? And that is something that is part of the standard. But you're not going to be able to prove correctness of code with or without confidential computing. This is a separate and orthogonal problem. So you list your requirements. You're doing code scans. You may have a requirement saying all of your dependencies, all the open source packages you pull in, are have been checked for vulnerabilities within the last 2 weeks, right? Again, you're not guaranteeing perfection. You're just creating your duty of care standard. And in the world I live in, what auditors care about is, or controls people care about, is that you clearly articulate that what your requirements are, that these requirements are in line with expected standards or expectations of various sorts, with your contractual obligations, which again vary by jurisdiction, by customer, by whether it's payment related or healthcare related, and then you just adhere to them. That's really all it is. It's not trying to guarantee any kind of there's no certainty.
Yeah, I understand that. So my sort of main concern is that how comprehensive we want this list to be. What is the criteria we use to say that this goes into the requirements and the others we leave out? I think it's the potentially.
I think it's a matter of judgment. I think it's a matter of judgment and taste. All right. So these, if you read through these, these requirements apply to effectively all instances. There is never a case where you want to use an insecure random number generator. You really do need to consider your trusted root stores, who you trust for purposes of establishing TLS connections and whatnot. And as we find other important cross-cutting concerns, we'll add them. Now, any customer who has their own concerns or governance requirements, they can always add them. So patterns are not This is not your Bible. This is more of a guiding document.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I do encourage, like, if other people have some specific thoughts, I saw Diona added in text something from common criteria that in order to keep track of these, you can add an issue to the governance repo for these patterns docs. The next open item we have here is there's some should text. So wherever there's not a must, but a should, there's usually some explanatory text about why that should exists. And this one was, sorry, I just lost track
Yeah,
of it.
that one was added. I forget who it was added by, but it does not have a matching explanation. By the way, shoulds are effectively, what are you risking if you ignore this?
Right.
So we can add text right now. If you don't verify your bills of materials, well, you will have undetected vulnerabilities or vulnerabilities not you may not know about in your production environment. And we can simply add that.
Okay, fine with that. So let's see here. So we got to go find.
And again, the musts are completely inarguable. A must is if you don't do this, you are definitely screwed. You'll definitely be in violation. You'll definitely not have proper expected security. And we use those, only where we must, pun intended. But shoulds are really things that we leave at the discretion of whoever is doing the deployment.
This one space. Okay. Do you want to give me that text again real quick?
Yeah, failure to check the bill of material post deployment.
Hang on. Failure to check.
Why is that an
it
F? Hold on, maybe it already is there. It already seems like is there an F or is this? It sounds like it's already listed. Check if there is an F in square brackets in the text already. Reproducible builds. I see. So G really refers to F. What's F down there? What we're missing. So what you really want to do is rename the F to a G and insert an F that has to do with reproducible builds. This is what actually happened.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, I will tell you, unless you already know, you know, reproducible builds are very difficult to do. Very, very difficult to do.
And G is F.
Yes. And I would even at this point in time not even argue about it. Yeah. And the one that says G, yeah, anyway. I maybe just put a to do in there, and then in the next GRC meeting, we'll add the necessary wording. But yeah.
Okay, so I'll merge that in, but do we need to switch this F to I don't know, E?
No, that's fine. Like we just didn't have an F. We just need to add.
Okay, so this is reproducible builds, and then if we go down there to sorry, switch back and forth here. It's a little easier to read on this one.
Yeah, so after E.
Yeah, so that F
needs to be
E,
renamed
right?
to the G, and after E, you need to add a to do for us to speak to reproducible builds. Wait, hold on. Then that's
I
already
think it's
there.
just
So
an off by one error. Yeah.
there is an off by one error. Yeah, we already see we're already speaking to non-reproducible builds. So basically now we'll have to check all of them. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to make a note for myself so we don't have to keep everybody on to go through and
Okay.
do the off by one check.
Yeah.
All right.
The F should have been an E and the G should have been an F, and that would solve both the problems.
Right.
That's clear.
Well, just
Okay.
need to check that A, B, C, D are still there. But yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that is ready to get fixed up. So I'm just going to okay, it jumps on me. Okay, so this is maybe a little bit more substantive thing to discuss. So there's these reference to the image that's created in the other document, that
Yeah.
kind of relationship document. How do you want to deal with that diagram?
I would not want to copy this diagram into every governance pattern, because then if you need to make even a minor change, you have to go change every pattern. So that document is almost ready. You know, it has just, by the way, Alec, if he's on the call, there's a couple of comments addressed to him, and the comments are literally are, is it okay to now delete this comment? So it's almost entirely there. And we can simply refer to it because there is this really nice diagram. You can bring it up if you want by clicking on that link. But it is just at a glance illustration of the various relationships we have in this ecosystem. And yeah, right. So in every pattern, we have a table saying along arrow 1, this is the expectation. Along arrow 11, that's the expectation. Whatever applies to that pattern. And this is a very high level description of what these expectations are. And again, it even says that go into individual patterns to read about detailed expectations at each level.
Yeah. So this diagram can be exported as an image file and then linked within each one of those other documents. That way, if you do update that diagram, it automatically would get picked up by the other ones.
That can work if somebody wants to take it on, of course, yes.
Yeah.
I'm just what I want to avoid is having to change each document every time I change a pixels. And by the way, it's remained stable for the last year or so. So it's but you never know.
Okay. So let's see if we can resolve this one. Okay, so from my read, he's suggesting just an alternate mechanism where you don't remove reference values, but instead you create policies around a larger set of possible reference values. And I feel like maybe that's a level of detail below where this governance document is. I'll phrase it this way. I'm inclined to resolve this without changes and allow Simon to create an issue on the document moving forward.
That's where I am as well.
Okay.
This is far too in the weeds. Ultimately, this is handled by the fact that we recommend that verifier keeps for system of record considerations the entire history, eventually event-sourced history of all policies and who did what and who's responsible for every change and what policies were in effect at each time. So if you follow the verifier governance practices, then this sort of falls out. You will know what's going on.
Okay, what do we have? Is this something that you want to pursue here?
That's an issue. I'm just like I will do this replace and talk not just the hardware, but the hardware and the operating system. And we're going to do the same for the reverse proxy governance. So again, I did not want to pollute this.
Okay, so we can just resolve this for now and you'll do that in a subsequent PR. Is that?
Yeah, correct. Yes.
Okay.
I'll be making a series of small targeted changes that really don't change the meaning of substance, but a little bit better for readability. And then we'll also insert like a version number, so we'll track what changes were made at each version post initial approval.
Okay, and for this one, Simon was asking to have some language around having reference values and endorsers recognized, because one of the things you want to govern with a verifier is that they're actually pulling the latest gold values. So I tried to satisfy that feedback with this text. Does anybody?
So we in the document, if you look with some, there is a discussion of what constitute policies, and policies in this document becomes kind of a catchword for reference values and a bunch of other stuff. Now, I don't have any objection to this in principle. I thought we spoke to that.
Okay, so I'll just go ahead and commit this then. Or no?
I'm thinking.
I think you're being cautious not to expand the concept of policy.
I'm being cautious not to put something else that could be done as an issue. I would prefer that this be taken up as an issue and added as a pull request after we have a chance to review it and not do it in front of this entire audience.
Okay.
So I can't voice an objection other than I would like to think this through. And we can discuss it at the next Jersey meeting next Wednesday and make a targeted change then.
Okay.
See, this is where, there is a policy mentioned here, and he replaces it with reference value, endorsement, etc. But there is, if you look, there is a statement in the document basically says, policy is a catchword here because we don't want to say it over and over and over again. And again, we can reward later, it doesn't change anything substantially. And I see where he's coming from. He wants precision. That's commendable. But again, I want to make sure that the change is targeted and appropriate.
Okay. So you're going to talk about those next week. Do you want me to leave these open in this PR or just resolve them for now and create a separate issue?
I would create issues for all the things that we haven't made it into the into the approved version, and then we'll very quickly iterate and fix them all up. These are small editorial things.
Okay, so um, which document was that?
Verifier. Which I believe already has it, but maybe not completely. So we'll take a look. Maybe copy his comment over there, and so we remember what exactly he wanted to say. But
Resolve them. I don't think I can assign you. All right. Well, deal with assignment later. Okay, so I think that was the last batch of things here. So I won't merge this thing live because Hightow is going to do a couple other little cleanup things like file names with spaces, and then it should be able to be merged. And then we can take this draft to the to outreach to have them start figuring out layout and how this appears on the website, knowing that I have a
just
couple
let
of
us
other
make
little background revisions.
let us make a few additional important changes, so we don't have to go through this process more than once. But that shouldn't take more than a week. It's pretty small.
Okay. And I was not watching chat. Let me just see what Deanna has here. This is policy. Okay. So, Dion, I'm not sure where to capture that, so feel free to throw that into an issue if you like. Okay, I think that brings us to the end of our agenda. The only other thing that we had was if anybody had presented at the RSA conference, if they wanted to provide some recap of that. So I didn't see anybody put up their name for that earlier, but I'll just extend that option now if somebody had some RSA recap comments. No? Okay, so then just looking ahead to our next edition, that will be May 29th, and we are scheduled to get an annual update from Keystone, and we're going to have a tech talk from Zvanko of NVIDIA talking about, it says Kata Coco here, but I think it's more than just the confidential containers project, the use of devices, secure access to devices. Anything else from anyone today? Requests for agenda items for next session? I guess maybe one other thing I'll throw out is that at the beginning of the year, we talked about updating some of our existing docs for like the terminology. And nobody has come back around to that. So if that's still a goal for people, I think we need to volunteer to go through and start drafting that. But I'll throw that out onto the list. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Got a lot done today and still getting people out of the door here with almost a half an hour. So good work.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, bye.